Hello, hello. Okay, so today I want to go through the process of how I fit this muslin, and I eventually get to this dress, which I'm currently in the process of sewing. And here is a little sneak peek of the bodice for you. I'm working on it right now, so hopefully in a couple of videos I will be able to show you the finished garment. Okay, so what I started with was this pattern. It is the Wyman dress sloper by Cashmerette Club. And this is a pattern that you can only get as part of their like a monthly subscription. They come out with new patterns every month, and Jenny does all of these like tutorials and fitting sessions and lots of good information in there. So that's what I started with. I went onto their website. And I plugged in my size here into the size calculator. So it's just, you just go in there and you plug in your measurements. And as you can see, I'm working with a avatar. It's a body scan avatar. This is an avatar of my exact body with my personal measurements and my, imperfections and my asymmetry and all of that. So this is what I love. This is what I love about Clo. This is what I love about pattern drafting, is that I'm able to create patterns that fit my body, and I don't have to try and fit into the mold of what the industry provides, either even the pattern making industry, which makes patterns based on a very specific size and shape. I can use my body size and shape, modify the patterns to fit me. So this is what's really cool. But there's a process to it. There's a lot of learning involved in it, and you gotta love doing it, I think. But I find Clo to be an extremely helpful resource to get me from a place where I can work with the pattern and modify it. And it's so much faster and so much more effective than trying to do it all just on paper and using up muslin fabric or even your good fabric all the time. Anyways, long story short, I love the fact that you can bring in a avatar that's exactly you, or modify avatars if you don't have a body scan, which is another whole video that I will probably make one day. Let me know if that'll be something interesting to you. But anyways, this is where we're at. So I got this pattern from Cashmerette Club. I used the size calculator to determine what size I would make. The calculator said I should make a size 8 with a GH cup, a 2-inch full bust adjustment, size 14 at the waist, and size 4 at the hip. Okay, so I ignore the waist and hip measurement just because the waist is pretty easy to adjust later on, and the hip measurement doesn't really come into play right now. So I'm just working on the bodice of this pattern. I traced off the size 8, and I traced off just the seam or the sewing line of it, not the seam allowance, because you don't need seam allowance in Clo. And so I traced off the front and back, and this is where I ended up with this bodice right here. So this is cool because now I can look at it and assess where I think it needs fit adjustments. So basically, we see some wrinkling in the neck, we see some wrinkling in the armhole, maybe it's tight across the bust, and we see some drag lines down here, right here. These drag lines here, or these drag lines here. There's some excess here, excess fabric here, and excess in the neckline. Another cool feature that Clo has is these fit maps. So I'm going to look at the strain map right now, and you can see it's kind of tight across the upper part of my bust here, not really across the front, and underneath the arm side here. If you're curious why I have 2, it's because we're going to make our modifications on this second one over here. All right, so that's how the muslin looks. Like, let's say I was sewing it up for the very first time. This is what it would look like. Cool. So based on the suggestion from the Cashmerette website, I started with an FBA. Fitting is a process, and it's just what it is. So that was the first thing I ended up doing. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how you do that in Clo right now, and then we'll look at the results. So I'm just going to work in 2D right now. Okay, so to do a full bust adjustment, that's the exact same way that you do it on paper. You draw a line here up to the apex and through to the arm side. And then you draw a line from the bust point to the apex. And then you cut these lines. And then you basically make some room just in the full bust point of the garment, or the apex of the garment. So I'm just going to move this out of the way for a second. I'm going to draw a new line in here, offset as internal line. And this is going to be, so we want to do a 2-inch full bust adjustment, which means that's 1 inch on half the pattern, and I'm working in centimeters. So that's about 2.5 centimeters. So that's why I have 2.5 in here, and we get our new reference line. This is here. I'm going to pull it all the way down to the bottom. And then what you do is open up this part of the pattern and you rotate it from the seam allowance line, or from the sew line. So I'm making that my rotation point, and I'm going to open up the pattern to where this line is right here. So I want that point to touch that line. That's opening up the pattern exactly 1 inch, or 2.5 centimeters. It needs to move a little bit more. And that is good. And then I'm going to move this back to where those meet up. It's kind of finicky in Clo. Like, I wish I could make this more exact, but I don't know. Let me know if anybody has like a better way of doing that. Okay, so that is how we want to open up the fullness, and we don't want to change. Okay, so that is how we open up the fullness through the bust, and then we need to bring this, the center front of the bodice back down so that it's the same length as the side or the outer part of the bodice. I don't want to just move this line straight down because you can see that it's changing the length of my dart. So what I'm going to do is draw a line here, and then I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to give myself a line here. Oops. And then I made it in the middle of the pattern there because Clo won't let you draw a line like off in the middle of space like this. So I just make it in the middle of the pattern and then move it where I need to afterwards. And then I'm going to take this part of the pattern piece, I'm going to move it down, holding shift to keep it constrained on the y-axis, and create the new space there. Okay, so this is basically our new pattern. All we have to do is draw in our new bust darts and then trace it off as a pattern. So what I'm going to do is first find where the new apex point will be, which is basically the center of this line right here. So I'm just going to do a uniform split. And then I'm going to grab these two lines. Whoops. I'm going to lock them just so that they don't get in the way. And then I'm going to draw my new dart legs out to the new apex point. And then I'm going to take that point, and normally you move your dart point back 1 inch or less for a smaller bust, or 1.5 to 2 inches for a larger bust. So I'm going to move it 2.5 inches. I'm working in centimeters, so that's 3.8 centimeters. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. And then I'm going to move that back down 3.8 centimeters. And that is basically it. I'm going to draw a line here as well because I want to make a new pattern. Okay, so to make a new pattern out of this, I'm going to just grab all of these new lines that I made. This is my new dart, side seam, bust dart, arm side, shoulder, neck, enter, and it did something weird. Okay, I don't think it liked that I'm trying to use this center line, so we're just going to cut that. Oh, okay, it created internal lines all the way around my pattern, which is not what I wanted. So now I'm just going to cut this, and I think it'll be easier to, I'm going to cut this as well. Yeah, and this happened before. So when I cut that, you can see for some reason it deletes this internal line. So not the end of the world. We'll just bring it back. I want to bring it back up to there. Oh, I need to bring this line back so I can find out where the center is. And then bring it down. Oh, it's grabbing the whole line. I don't want to do that. I just want the point to come down 3.8 centimeters. Okay. And then I got to bring this line back. Okay, now I'm going to trace off this pattern using the trace pattern tool. So all of the outline of it. And the shoulder seam, enter or trace this pattern and bring that down. Okay, so here's my new pattern. We can cut these and just clean it up real quick. Okay, so that is my new bodice shape. This is all of our rough work. We're going to just bring it over here and archive it and bring this back up. And then I'll bring you back over to the 2D window. This is what it looks like. We're going to unfold this. Unfold symmetric editing with sewing. And here, I'll just bring you over and show you how it looks compared to the original pattern. So you can see this is cool because the arm side, the neckline, shoulder seam, and arm side all stay the same. And the length of this armhole is actually still the same. The length of the side seam is still the same. So if I bring this to here, you can see that length is still the same. And this one, even though the angle changed, the length is still the same. And the waistline hasn't changed either. So you can see that this center front waist is the same and the outer bodice waist is the same as well. So we've added more fullness through the front, but not, we haven't changed any of the seams, which is really cool. So I'm just going to add muslin material to our new pattern as well. And then we're going to sew her up real quick. And simulate. And I think our particle distance is still probably bigger. It's still at 20, so we're going to bring it down to 8. Everything should be at an 8 particle distance so we can get a more accurate visualization of how this garment's going to sit on, or a more accurate fabric drape. Okay, let's look at both of them together and check out the results. All right, so you can see that it didn't really fix a lot, did it? We still have the wrinkles in the neckline, all of this happening, and it doesn't look that much better. Although if I turn on the fit map, you can see that there is less strain across this part of the bust right here, but it actually just created a whole bunch more wrinkles all the way around. And so, I mean, this is why I love Clo3D, because now I'm able to like sort of cross that off, like, nope, that wasn't the fit correction that I needed to do. And I can go to the next, like my next idea. What else can I try to make this pattern, to get this pattern to fit for me? Okay, so after I realized that full bust adjustment wasn't the adjustment that I needed to make, I actually just went through and thought about it, just looked at the garment some more. Let's go back to the original because I think the original actually looks better than the adjusted pattern here. So this is like what's so nice in Clo. I can go back to the original right away. This took me like 10 minutes to make this, like to try out this pattern modification, as opposed to like if you sew yourself, in real life, like you have to print off the pattern, cut out the muslin, sew up the muslin, and then try it on, and then make your assessments on like what you think you need to change, and then make the change, and then do that all again. So it's just significantly faster. It saves so much time, and it helps you get to a better place so much faster. Okay, so what I decided to try next was to convert this to a princess seam, because I like princess seams because you just have so much more control over how you modify that. Like you now have two pattern pieces and a lot more seam lines that you can work with. So what that looks like is this here. And I don't know what she's doing over here. These are the two we're looking at. So this is where I ended up. So this is where we were. If I go to thick textured surface. So this is where we were. This is the original pattern as I originally traced it off. And this is where I ended up. And at this point, I sewed it up and made it an actual muslin to try it on to compare the fit for it. And I will just walk you through quickly how I did that. Actually, before I do that, I just want to show you one more thing as well. Okay, so when I got to this point here, I decided to finish the skirt, and then this was my first version of the dress that I made, and I made a muslin out of this. So it didn't actually have this print on it. It was just a muslin material, and this was my first physical iteration of the dress that I made as well. So let's just back up for a second. Let's go back to this one, and I'll show you how I went from this bodice block with a waist and bust dart to this bodice block that has a princess seam on it. Okay, so we need this one. This is the original. And we're basically going to turn it into this one here. And maybe I'll just do it with you so you can see what's happening in 3D, which is pretty cool. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is close this side bust dart and put it into the arm side. Just so I put it in the same place, I'm going to mark the distance on here. So it's 12.27. So I'm just going to mark 12.27 here so I know where to put it. And then I'm going to close this dart here. So first I have to change it to a dart. So I'm just going to select shape dart cap and make sure that it is the same shape as my original pattern. Now I can select the dart and then rotate dart, and then we're going to rotate it to right here. And the rotate line should happen not at the apex, not at the point of the dart, but at the apex where the fullest point of your pattern is. So about there, and then you can close the dart, and then you can draw on your new dart. I'm going to do that again. So rotate dart here to here, and then close it. And then my new dart, it should be about 1.5 centimeters, or sorry, 1.5 inches away from the apex point. So you just gotta guess right now because you don't really have that option in Clo. And then I'm just gonna clean it up because I don't need these guys here anymore. just get rid of these lines because I find them distracting. Okay, so you can kind of see that it's starting to take the new shape of for the princess seam. So I can actually simulate right now, and you can see that it's closed my side dart and it's rotated that up into the arm side. And it's really cool because, I mean, that's amazing, right? Like you can see that right away in 3D, exactly what you just did. We don't need this to have seam taping on it anymore. So we're just going to turn that off. Okay. Cool. Okay, so what do we need to do next? We are going to join these two darts. Then we're going to add a curve to them. This lost its seam taping, so I'm just going to bring it back real quick because I'm seeing it right now. And this part too. That just happens in Clo sometimes when you modify the pattern. It decides to get rid of your elastic or your seam taping. That's on the other pattern anyways, so we're not seeing it, but in any case, that's where we're at. Okay, so now you can see that this pattern is starting to look like this pattern. Did I cut it already? No. So I'm going to cut this now. Okay, now we don't really need these. Actually, what I'm going to do to keep this line relatively the same is I'm going to use the smooth curve line. And this line, and then you just smooth out that curve because it shouldn't have that weird shape. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to do it to there. Just smooth it out like that. And then simulate. And we lost some of the sewing. Whoops. And we'll true up the seam lines afterwards. Okay, so now you notice that this shape looks a lot different from this one because I just started taking out of the arm side here. So it's basically like opening up a dart, but it's so much easier. Yeah, I think it's the curve points maybe. Okay, if I just get rid of these curve points, yeah. And then select this line here and select D to maintain the shape, or try to anyways. I think I can take out as much as 1 centimeter right now. So actually, if you want to maintain the shape or if you want to like remember the shape of your pattern, you can either, I mean, we always have this to go back to, but one thing that you can do is right click on your pattern and then clone as reference line. Now, when I move any point of the pattern, it maintains the old reference line, so you can see how much it actually changed. And you can always delete that reference line when you're done. So I'm going to take out 1 centimeter right now. And you can see that's how much it took. Actually, before I do that, one thing that we can do is use the tack tool to like get a better idea of how much we need to be taking out. So this is sort of where so it's like this much fullness right here. I added the tack and you can see it pulls it out. So you could modify the pattern from there, but I know what I did on this one was that I just like kept working this armhole. I'm going to remove that tack. All right, so we're gonna, this weirdness is happening at the side because I don't think I need this curve here. So I'm just gonna delete that. Much better. Now let's true up these seam allowances. This is 25.41 and this is 26.62. I'm actually going to just convert this to a curve point. I'm going to do that for now because eventually it's going to look more like this. So you can select match measurement, and I'm going to match it to the longer one. Yeah. And I'm going to add it from both, or maybe just, yeah, I'm going to add it to both for now. And then I'm going to simulate and see how it's looking. So it needs like, I'm going to take out like a curve from right here. So it's going to end up looking more like this one. And then I'm still having this gaping in my neck. Let's see if I actually did change that. Yeah, but just by a little bit. Okay, so to cut out the gaping in that neck, you can use the Fullness point tool. So I'm just going to do it from there to about the apex. Oops, other way. So from there to the neckline. And I'm just going to take out 1 centimeter for now. Which is 2 centimeters all around. And then the apex to apex looks pretty wide to me here. So I ended up bringing it in. Where exactly is that point? So I like to select where the fullest point of the bust is on this, like there. So I'm going to add an X there. I'm going to convert that to a curve point, and I'm just going to bring this in. Yeah. About 1 centimeter. And then what's happening now, it's probably getting tight around the bust. If I look at the fit map, I bet we'll see that. Yep, it's starting to get tight around there now, and it's still tight under the arm side. And we still have more wrinkling there. Okay, so then it's like just a matter of fitting, like refining and fitting and fiddling to make sure that you end up with the pattern that you want. So I'm just going to play around for a couple more minutes and I'll speed up the footage, and then I will try on the muslin that I actually made, and you can see the digital version compared to the physical version. Okay, so that is I'm gonna kind of leave it there. You can see the patterns look a little bit different. I actually think that this one looks better than this one, but this is the one that I actually made the muslin out of. And that's how pattern drafting is. Like you are trying to achieve a particular type of fit, and you modify the pattern, and you end up with like a final result. And this is what I ended up with. One more thing I want to show you before I try on the dress is how I do the skirt part of the dress. So if I unarchive this, this is what I started with, and this is what I ended up with, and this is a pretty quick and easy pattern adjustment. So I'm just going to simulate so you can see how it looks, and then I am going to draw a new line in here straight down, and then I'm going to make sure this is a dart. And then I'm going to close this dart or rotate it, and it's going to start from here to here, and then this side closes, and that dart can go to there. And then we can delete this line, and we can get rid of this one too. And so you can see I've closed the waist dart. The waistline stays the same, and I've added fullness to the bottom of the skirt. There's some sewing happening here. I'll do the same on the back real quick. And then, so this is actually something I really loved about Clo. Another really cool feature is that you can play around with, is there something going on with the sewing at the sides? So you can play around with the fullness of the skirt and how much you want. And what was really cool about this was that I could actually go in and have a look at the width of my fabric with the fabric print layout mode. And I actually only had so much of this fabric available to me. So I was able to come in here and put the exact width plus the exact length that I had for this fabric, and get this print layout so that I knew exactly how to cut it so that I would have enough for the final garment. So yeah, I just messed around with the fullness. I added some more just using that. Actually, one more thing I can show you is the fullness line tool, which is really cool. So after you close the dart, if you want to add more fullness, you just use this one, the fullness line tool. And this is like a slash and spread. If you were doing this on paper, you would cut lines down this and then keep them all the same at the top and open them up at the bottom. But in Clo, you basically it's just like having a million little lines, and it keeps this line at the waist the same, and it opens it up at the bottom. I'll let this simulate for a second. It's on a really low particle distance, so it's going to be kind of mushy. I should probably change the particle distance, but I'll just let it go for a minute until it falls, so you can see how it's falling. I didn't do the backside, so that's not going to be the same either. But anyways, the next thing I'm going to do is try on the dress that I made, so you can compare the physical sample on my body compared to the physical this dress here, which is the physical original version that I made. Okay, so I will see you in a second. Okay, so here is how it looks. Hopefully this light is okay. It's very comfortable. Okay, so I'll show you some things about the muslin. I sewed it and then I clipped it so that the fit is similar to how it will fit like along the sew line, because if I didn't clip it, I would be getting some extra tension along the seam line where it wouldn't be. So I did that. I accidentally clipped a little bit too far in this shoulder here, but that's okay. Okay, so the collards. There's some wrinkling happening along the princess seam here. So some excess fabric, excess fullness that needs to be removed there. And the arm side is a little bit, I would like it to come in more, probably like that much. And so I think it's a matter, or I know what I did was actually I shortened this, I opened up the arm side a little bit and shortened the bust line, and that did help with getting rid of the wrinkles. And this is cool because you can actually see this, like when I go back to Clo, you can see this on there. But otherwise, yeah, just adjusting the arm side a little bit, and I think I adjusted the neckline a little bit as well, although I find it pretty comfortable right now. The length of the bodice, I'm pretty happy with. It's pretty balanced, which is nice, and the back is very comfortable. I think I did scoop out the armholes a little bit more, but that was more for style than it was for like the fit, the comfort of the dress. So this is where we're at. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna go back into Clo, make a few more adjustments, and then I sew up the final dress, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so we're back in Clo. This is the last bit I'm going to show you guys for this video. This was the muslin that I just tried on, and I think it's super cool because although kind of not as obvious in Clo, the issues are here with the wrinkling at the bust line. And because I can't, this avatar is not rigged, so I can't like put her shoulders down and there's no soft body, so you can't see how like the arm side was a little bit tight on me from this pose. And I mean, that's just good to know. Like that's sort of where we're at with the limitations of 3D design. Although that is being worked on, soft body is available on Clo avatars, and it's going to be something that's coming in the future. So that's pretty cool. But I think it's good. I think it's super useful to show where, like how far digital design can get you, and so where the limitations are as well. But anyways, that was present there, and I'm not going to go through the pattern changes again because you've this video is long enough already. But I ended up just sort of modifying the bodice and the back, I think a little more, till I ended up with this shape here. So this is the dress that I'm currently sewing up. I can show you in monochrome surface. It still has a bit of the wrinkling in the bust there. So I'm slightly worried that will show up when I sew the garment, but I think it's going to be good. I think I'm going to be happy with it. This is the actual print of the fabric that I'm using, and I'll show you the patterns as well. So here is how much I modified the bust. So the muslin is the original fabric and the pattern one is the new one. So you can see I dug out the arm side. Let me turn off the seam allowance for you. I'll turn off this as well. So you can see how much I've reshaped the pattern between these two. I reshaped the neckline a little bit. I made this shoulder seam a little bit shorter. And I scooped out the arm side, and you can see I spent a bit more time reshaping this this outer bust panel. I think, yeah, that's it. Oh, I think one thing I didn't call out was that I also narrowed the center bust panel, so the seam lines aren't as far apart. I think that's a little more like it gives you kind of a more balanced shape. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Here's a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it, and that's it. I guess I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.